I decided to come and check to see if any of our berries had ripened and was pleasantly surprised. I actually have already snuck a few of these, but you can see the red ones are starting to change color. When they're red like this, they're really crunchy and pretty sour. But when they're black and plump like these here, those are pretty sweet. And I thought I'd come out and pick some. Maybe bring you guys along for a little bit. And I forgot my mic, so sorry about that. It's in the house, and if I go back in the house, my little dog will have a fit if I try to leave again. So you're welcome for leaving him inside, so he's not just barking the whole time I'm out here. Hopefully this won't take very long. I haven't decided if I'm going to use these or if I'm going to sell these to a friend, but they're wild, so unfortunately they are thorny, and the thorny parts are not much fun at all. But the berries are worth at least trying to pick, the good sweet ones. Kind of reminds me a little bit when I was pretty young. We went with a friend of my mother's, and I've been racking my brain trying to remember who it was. It might have been Miss Simmons, to go berry picking, and it was a wild a lot with wild blackberries. It was huge in the town that I grew up in, and then eventually that lot got made into a Kmart, and those berries went away. But that was fun. It was a fun time. It was a good time. Wondering if I can get to these without getting poked too much down here. Several of these are just laying on the ground, or I guess they're on the vine. They're just, that part of the vine is on the ground. If you ask people what these are, some will say wild blackberries, some say, oh, look at that. Some will tell you that they're wild raspberries or they're black raspberries. I honestly don't know what they are. Oh, come on. Can we just work with me here? I just want to get it so they're hanging, so they're easier to pull off. Not sure what they are, but they are good. The ripe ones are a little bit sweet, a little bit tart, but they're fun. But I haven't quite decided if I'm going to use these yet, or if I'm going to let somebody else use them. May let them. I haven't done much canning this year, and I really probably should be, but just haven't been much in the mood, unfortunately. I did eat quite a few of these earlier, so if you see a spot that like looks like it, some have been taken, I probably did that. There's some more up here. There were 3 right here, and I ate those. But I started thinking about that time. You know, you take for granted some of those things when you're a kid. You know, those few moments where life is just sort of fun. I'm fairly certain when we were asked to go and do it, we probably did it reluctantly, because, you know, kids always have their own agenda. Never liked really being out in the heat much. Still don't tolerate it real well. Found out I have a medical condition that causes that problem, and have figured out a few ways to deal with it. But it is kind of fun picking your own berries. I did plant some thornless blackberries this year, so eventually, maybe next year, I'll be able to get some of those, and they'll be hopefully twice the size of these. Let's see, I know I saw another one there. I tend to just chop this particular vine down because I don't want it choking out this oak tree. Whoops. You know, I'm sitting here talking and moving the camera, but I don't even know that I'm actually showing what I'm doing. That's funny. Clearly my brain is not exactly on the task at hand. It's more focused on the berries than the filming, and I apologize for that. But the memory of actually going and picking the berries is actually a pretty good memory. I don't even know that we did it for very long because it was hot and there was always a concern about snakes or whatever, you know, being in the area. And so you're constantly looking for the snakes while you're poking your hands in and getting the berries. But it's a pleasant time nonetheless. I'm fairly certain that we came home with, I don't know, a couple of gallons of them that day and ate them. I think my mom made a blackberry cobbler. I do remember that. That was kind of fun. She is who I learned to make cobblers from, and I do appreciate that because I can make a pretty good cobbler. Let's see here. Yeah, if you try to pick the red ones, they're just hard and crunchy. They're not very good. That may be all I really have on this particular plant right now. Don't really see any more at the bottom. It's not very many. You would think it would be more than that, but they're really pretty small. You know, about raspberry size. Could have some over here. We'll go look. I did notice the cherry trees are putting on wild cherries, but I tasted some of those and they really are not good. They're very bitter. Let's see if we have any berries on this at all. This looks pretty much vacant of berries. This tree sure has grown a lot in 3 years. I think I see one and it's red. Maybe eventually we'll get some. But this tree 3 years ago was about that big. Let's put on a few feet. We got one other spot I can look over here to see if there are any more berries, and I can always come back and pick these in about 3 or 4 days. They're still red. Hopefully it will continue to put on some. That would be fun. The ones that I have are thornless. I believe are primocanes, which means they will set fruit on next year on this year's growth. I think that's the way it works. I don't know. I try to wrap my brain around some of that and not always real good at it. But let's see fruit. But I don't see any dark fruit. They're all red. Let's see back here. Have any black ones? And I am not seeing any, not even underneath. Well, that's sad. Keep threatening to cut down this tree. I really want it gone. I am not a fan of Bradford pears. There may be a couple in here. just looks like a very big possibility for snakes, which I am not a fan of those either. You can see some red ones here. Oh, I see one black one that I can probably reach. Maybe a few more. Oh, yay, okay. I'm kind of hiding over here. There's one there. It's a pretty good sized one, actually. Look at that. There's a few more down here. Whoop. I have some in a bowl in my refrigerator that I grabbed earlier, and then I decided to go in and get a bag. Figured my hand was not going to be big enough to hold them all. And I was right. Let's see, there's another one. I do appreciate the fact that they're trying to grow up and set fruit. I'd rather have a trellis than this tree. Branches, man. One. Thought I saw another one. Maybe it's further down. Yeah, there's one in there. I'm sure these get spread by the birds that kind of pop in and grab them. But there aren't as many as I was hoping for. I mean, it's not very many. Probably shouldn't have eaten the small handful that I ate earlier. But a little vitamin C. There's another one of these vines, but I do not see any fruit at all. These wild ones are a little misleading because they sort of look like, they kind of look like wild, or the leaves sort of look like poison ivy. So when you see them, it's possible for people just to kill off the plant and not even realize that what they're doing. I looked here earlier for some plums, and there are some, and they're decently sized. Look at those up there, right there. But I don't know, all this rain that we've had recently, every one I've picked has had worms in it. This isn't any fun. That one's not quite ready. They will fall off in your hand when they are, or they, because of all the winds and the rains, they just fall. Kind of hoping for a few low ones, and I'm not seeing any. I really want to top this tree and then make it so that I can easily mow around it at the bottom, because you just can't. And that's too bad. Suppose I could come over here and see if any of the smaller trees have put on fruit that has ripened. You can see how the water is still setting in the ground. It has rained every day. Rain this morning, rain yesterday, rain the day before. So far, our property has gotten over 20 inches this year, since January. And that is not any fun. Not when you need to mow and tend to things and you just really can't. So if you look, see, even these are all, they're tiny though. These are the size most people end up getting. It takes a long time for the trees to mature enough to get the size of the plums that I have over there, but I just am not seeing. Oh, look, there's some blackberries. Oh, I'm glad I came over here. Look at that. There's one right there, and here. I didn't even realize this plant was here. See a few of them though. Now we got blackberries all in here, but you talk about a place for snakes. This is definitely it. Most definitely. But this was my best spot for plums. And then there was someone who came and cut trees this summer while this spring while my daughter, I guess really it was winter, it was last November, was in the hospital, and I wasn't here to manage the cutting, and they cut way more than I would have liked for them to. And in doing that, all of my plum trees that would have given me plums that were over here this year are gone, which is very frustrating. Take a look at these things. Aren't they crazy? This is a native plant here in Oklahoma. The last video I think I actually showed these covered in flies, and you can tell that they got completely pollinated. And this red here is actually their fruit. All these little red berries and seed. And the Native Americans in our area use this to actually make kind of a lemonade. And I tried it last year. It's okay, you know. Probably needs way more sugar than I was willing to put in it just to really make it palatable. But evidently it's pretty rich in vitamin C and a few other vitamins and good for you. And certainly an option if you want something tart for the summer and don't have, oops, this one's got my shirt. Don't have lemons. And that's not gonna make me happy. I'm gonna end up with holes in my t-shirt. That's frustrating. But I can look in here and see that there's actually quite a few more of the berries here in the plant. But you gotta get past all the thorny stuff to get to them. And that's not any fun. That's not much fun. But what I'm not seeing, which is a little frustrating, is the plums. Look at that. Oh goodness, look at this, grasshoppers. You see them? They're already jumping all in here. Oh, something big jumped. That's kind of scary. Might have been a bird. Could have been a snake. But well, that berry didn't give up. Suppose it could have just been a big grasshopper. Whew. Here's another berry. I'm not just reaching in mindfully. I mean, let me re-say that. I'm not just reaching in without looking. I'm paying attention. Below me, around me, I'm listening. Making sure that I don't hear anything rattling or, you know, within striking distance. I do pay attention. Last thing I want is to get bit by a snake. Would not look forward to paying for any anti-venoms right now. Not at all. Not seeing any more berry vines. That's too bad. My fingers all nice and stained. I probably have half a pound, maybe quarter pound of the berries here. And then I'll definitely come back in a couple of days and see if I can collect a few more. But I wouldn't mind if this whole area over here were just the berries. Oh, there's some more. Especially since the plums aren't ready yet. But there's a few more berries here. It's kind of nice. That's my big dog barking. That's his just spotted mom out. Everybody stay away bark. He's pretty protective of me. Let's see, there's one more I can reach. I do enjoy the berry picking. One of my apple trees, every flower fell this year in the storms and the rain and the worms. So it's not giving me any apples this year. And the other one has a few. One of my peach trees in the back split in two. Lost half my peaches. One of the ones in the front died. And while it put on new branches, there's no peaches on it. And then, just see if there's one around the bottom of this tree. I don't think there is. Nope. Nothing there. I don't think there's anything here. Nothing there. We already picked a few that were here. Whew. It's not horribly warm today, but the humidity is awful. Because of all the rain when the sun came out, all the moisture is just rising. Unfortunately, it's just too hot. Now I did notice that earlier this year that there were some berries over here, but I sort of did a quick look earlier and did not see them on this plant. So it's very likely that something's already eaten them. Because I'm just not seeing any berries. I figure something else grabbed them. Probably a bird. Which is fine. They gotta eat too. You can see all my daylilies are set in seed. Seed all over the place. Which is fun. Oh, okay. I think that's probably all I'm going to find today. Oh, look. I went to cut down this particular crepe myrtle. It's got everything growing in it. It's got Virginia creeper. It's got oak trees. It's got a berry vine, but I don't see any berries. It's still growing, but it's sick. It needs to go away. I don't see any berries here. That's too bad. And there's a vine on this one, but there are no berries on it either. They're not much fun to actual pick just because of the little thorns. I might look over here and see if there are any on the fence line. Whew. I'll show you the cherries, but they're bitter. I have to ask and see if anybody wants them. See, I can see the vine and I see thorns, but that doesn't have any berries on it. You can see some of my black-eyed Susans that grow wild around here. I absolutely love them, the little spots of color. You can see there's another berry vine, but I'm not seeing any. These are mainly on my neighbor's property. He doesn't really care if I reach in and get any, but I don't really see any that are close enough to grab, unfortunately. see what else we got. I'll show you the... Y'all ever seen one of these? I call these a touch-me-not. That's the flower right there, which is kind of cool. But when you touch it, watch what happens. You see it? How they're closing? Right here. It doesn't want to be touched. Some people call it a shy plant. You can get close. Actually see the leaves closing up, which is kind of fun. I don't know, maybe too close for you to actually see the motion. It goes so slow. But this little plant right here has thorns absolutely everywhere. There are thorns here. There's actually thorns here in between each one of those leaves, and then there are thorns all over this part here, and it's grabby. It is not a fun plant to do anything with, but it is kind of a fun plant to just watch close. Kind of a neat thing that you can show to children and entertain them with. I am not seeing... There's another vine, but no berries. I think I saw some yarrow. Still looking for the berries, really. There's a good vine, but no fruit. Not seen any fruit, unfortunately. That doesn't mean there won't be any later, though. There's another vine, but no fruit. This here, some of the cherry trees, they're highly toxic to anything that eats the wilted leaves, and this tree is not healthy. But if you look, let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. Look up there, you can see all these teeny tiny little cherries. And these haven't actually changed color yet, these. But there are some that have, just a few. This is the main tree here. And then this is a branch. Here's another. And this actually, there's some more cherries setting fruit there. There's some there. But if you look, you can see how small they are. I mean, they are just tiny, 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 tiny. So hardly worth eating. Most of what is there is the pit. I'll show you here. You know, there's the seed. But most of what's there is just the pit. Nice little ant on me. But this is as big as the cherries get. I mean, they're just about the size of, you know, a medium pearl, small pearl. Not very big at all. But I do think they could be gathered and processed to make something like jelly. Just don't know if it's worth it, because really, because they're so tiny, you know, it takes a little time to gather them. I just haven't decided if it's worth it. I do have a huge tree, but to get them, you have to climb quite a bit up. It's down here. Trying to watch where I step. But the leaves, should they ever wilt and an animal of any kind, human or cow or goat or chicken or whoever, eat the wilted leaves, the arsenic concentrates in the wilt, and they're toxic. They'll kill you. They'll shut down your liver and your kidneys and everything. There's some yarrow, quite a bit of that growing on the property. All yarrow. And honeysuckle. I've already done a video on that stuff. Trying to see if I have. Yeah, see, here's another one of the cherry trees. The tree itself is huge. It goes all the way up there. Like all of that is cherry tree. All of this. These cherries are ever so slightly bigger, but they're not like cherries you buy in the store. You know, that's as big as they are. So and I've eaten a few. They do not taste very good at all. You know, they're rather bitter, and you definitely don't want to swallow the seeds by any means. Again, that whole arsenic thing. But have lots of wildflowers on the property. Quite a few of the black-eyed Susans. I love seeing these just sort of popping everywhere in the fence line. This is a wild rose, but it does not have any blooms on it right now. But, well, I guess that's it for the blackberries. I'm going to go wash my hands and make sure that I did not get into any poison ivy. But just figured I hadn't put out a video in a little while. The rain has kind of dampened my mood and made it difficult to do anything outside. And I need to mow terribly. But that is it for today. Happy Father's Day to all you lovely dads out there. You guys have a great day. Bye now.